Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and today I am finally ranking the Star Wars theatrical releases. Now, I know this is about 4 months too late. Whoops, and probably nobody cares at this point, but I've been stuck here in quarantine. I decided to do an entire Star Wars saga rewatch while stuck at home. And since I hadn't ranked the series back in December, I thought, you know what? Why not get on here, share my ranking? I'm sure it's going to be quite the controversial ranking as we get toward the middle parts of this series. But I love Star Wars and am excited to share my opinions with y'all. So, just a reminder, this is just my own ranking, this is my own opinion, and this comes after having rewatched each and every one of these films at least several times a piece at this point. I feel pretty confident right now, at least, in this ranking, but it is just my opinion and it's just how I'm feeling today. I look forward to hearing your opinion in the comment section down below with your ranking. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Coming in at number 12, aka dead last, we have The Clone Wars. Now, this just serves as a kind of dull, kind of boring extended pilot episode for the animated series. There's really nothing to grasp onto here, especially upon first viewing it. The animation was actually quite jarring. Of course, we've gotten used to the animation style. We've gotten to know these characters over seasons and years of the Clone Wars animated series, but just as a standalone film by itself, it really has no place. It doesn't fit. It doesn't really work at all. The script is a mess. For me, it's clearly the worst Star Wars film that got released into theaters. At number 11, I have Attack of the Clones. The clones just cannot catch a break. Now, as we move forward, 11 on up, I actually enjoy them all to one extent or another. And there's a lot that I really, really love in Attack of the Clones. First of all, John Williams' score is stunning. Across the Stars is the best ballad maybe in all of Star Wars. It's so beautiful. The fight on Geonosis is a lot of fun. That arena scene, just in general, is a blast. The bounty hunter chase sequence at the beginning of the film is a lot of fun. And I know I might be in the minority here. I really liked seeing Yoda whip out that lightsaber and get it on some action. Unfortunately, though, this film just gets bogged down by that romance, and that is really what just weighs the whole movie down and keeps it from moving up any higher. The dialogue is so atrocious in this movie. Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman have absolutely zero chemistry, and everything about being on Naboo is just cringe to the max. It's horrible. Really, the acting from most of our cast is stilted here outside of Ewan McGregor, and that's about it. The effects wane in and out of looking solid to looking dated. Plus, the story at large isn't all that interesting, really, when you take a look at it, and actually becomes quite frustrating as we move along. So, Attack of the Clones has a lot of problems, and that's why it comes in at number 11. Coming in at number 10, I have The Phantom Menace. Episode 1, the return to the big screen for Star Wars. Once again, I actually like a lot about The Phantom Menace. First of all, I find the politics of the prequels to be pretty interesting. I know it's a big complaint for so many people, but I think it suits the time frame. I am into that type of intrigue and political play at action. It could have certainly been done better, but overall, I don't mind that. I also think the pod race is a lot of fun. A really inventive, fun action sequence to get the whole family involved. Plus, this gives us maybe the best lightsaber battle in the entire series, with Darth Maul taking on both Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan with that amazing, amazing score. Yet again, Duel of the Fates became instantly iconic. Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor give very solid performances. Natalie Portman also is not that bad in this film. I think she regresses for episode 2, honestly. And Darth Maul is just such an awesome but wasted potential villain. But we definitely get way too much Jar Jar, way too much like racially insensitive, culturally offensive jokes and stereotypes throughout this film. And thankfully, George Lucas got roasted enough over that they cut that down in the next two prequels. Also, baby Anakin, I don't know that we needed to go this far back in his history. We're introduced to midichlorians, which is just outrageous and stupid. It's a horrible, horrible idea that was brought up in this film. Not the worst, but just not all that interesting. Now again, at number 9, I have The Rise of Skywalker. Oh yes, the supposed end of the Skywalker saga. Oh, and unfortunately it did not go out on that great of a note. I actually love our main trio of characters in this sequel trilogy. I love Rey, I love Poe, I really like Finn, love BB-8. And in many ways, I do enjoy where their characters end up going throughout this final episode. There's a ton of fan service in this film. Some of it works, a lot of it doesn't. The visual effects are absolutely stunning, however, and the score, the final Star Wars score from John Williams, lives up to his legacy within the franchise. It's beautiful. However, just so much of the script doesn't make sense. So much of the script retroactively muddies the two films that come before it, and in many ways it is a direct reaction to The Last Jedi, and you can see it all over the film. And that's unfortunate. I wish they would have made a satisfying conclusion that was able to just stand on what it wanted to say, rather than feeling like some sort of reaction to a previous movie. Plus, all those interviews and all those segments that came out afterwards are a hard no and really diminished the script that was already not that great to begin with. Yikes. Coming in at number 8, I have Solo, A Star Wars Story. And I think Solo is fine. It's a perfectly fun, easy, breezy type of space adventure. All of our casts actually do a really good job and elevate all of the material that they're given. Plus, it's fun to get this kind of backstory to Han Solo, getting to see some of the events that take place that we've heard of throughout, obviously, the original trilogy and beyond. Again, the visuals are stunning, and that, train heist sequence in the middle of this movie is so much fun. I think it's fantastic. However, this film introduces a lot of things that I didn't like. Mainly, how Han got his last name is outrageous and ridiculous. It's right up there with midichlorians for me on being one of the most unnecessary, ridiculous, random additions they decided to just throw in throughout any of the Star Wars franchise. Also didn't like Chewbacca's introduction. It's very strange. And it was a bit like, what in the world? And in the scheme of things, as I watch these in chronological order, it just feels like it doesn't really have a place. It's a little bit boring, it's a little bit tedious, and honestly, when you finish watching the movie, you're kind of like, really, what was the point of that? Coming in at number 7, I have The Return of the Jedi. I know, I know, this is when the controversy begins in my ranking. Now, I enjoy Return of the Jedi. As I said, I enjoy pretty much all Star Wars films, just saying. But I do love a lot about The Return of the Jedi. Particularly, everything having to do with Luke's storyline is fantastic in this movie. Having him realize and see through his fate and his destiny, as well as, obviously, the redemption of Vader himself, is amazing. And honestly, a real achievement in storytelling. Plus, the moments with Yoda, as fleeting as they were in this movie, are wonderful, and I'm so glad he returned for the film and left such an impression. Plus, the revelation with Leia, top notch. Now, let's be real. I also think Ewoks are adorable, and they're really cute, they're really fun, but the entire battle on Endor is just kind of a hodgepodge, it's a bit of a mess all the way around. And it's such a huge, jarring tonal shift to go from this really dark, serious, emotionally impactful storyline of Luke and Vader and Palpatine over here, and then we cut to scenes with Ewoks able to take down trained stormtroopers and this ridiculous over-the-top battle on Endor. And that tonal shift really just never sits well with me. Plus, everything at the beginning of this movie that kind of wraps up where we were taking that kind of wraps up the open storylines from Empire feel almost like a completely separate film. Everything having to do with Jabba the Hutt feels very disconnected to me from the events that follow. And I love the Jabba the Hutt sequence. I think it's great. It just feels a little disjointed from then moving forward to the rest of the film. Not to mention, though, Boba Fett gets one of the lamest deaths, period. I mean, it's so bad. Every time I watch it, I am baffled as to how bad that Boba Fett death is. So Return of the Jedi has some really solid stuff in it, but it just is a tonal mess, honestly, and that's what keeps it down here at number 7. At number 6, I have The Last Jedi, the most divisive film in Star Wars history. As you can see, I'm not really on either side. I don't love it and I don't hate it. First of all, I'm going to say I think this is cinematically the most beautiful film in all of Star Wars. The shots that are done in this movie are fantastic. That red dust coming up off of that white sand is stunning. Really, all of those shots as we see Luke standing against an army is amazing. Seeing Leia just staring with this amazing outfit she has. It's beautiful. Jumping to light speed to cut another ship in half was epic. And I enjoyed Rey and Kylo's connection in this film. We get introduced to this kind of like forced Skype calling, and I thought it was a neat idea and it was executed well. Not to mention, I actually enjoy Rey's entire character arc in this film. I also enjoy Poe's character arc in this film. I know many have problems with it. I think Poe actually gets a lot in this film to work with. Plus, the throne room, amazing. One of the best action set pieces in all of Star Wars. It was so good. Then we get to Luke, the part that many people have a very big problem with. And I'm not one of those people, I have to say. I think partially because I never gravitated toward Luke in the original trilogies. And yes, I grew up watching these movies. They've always been a part of my life since I was really little. But to be honest, I always found Luke to be kind of whiny, kind of bratty, and I never really connected to him. So seeing where he was later in life and seeing that progression, it didn't feel so out of character for me personally. That's what I'll say there. I can understand both sides on this. I can understand both sides when it comes to The Last Jedi. My main problems are similar in some ways to Return of the Jedi. We have huge tonal shifts. Everything on Canto Bight is terrible. I mean, it is completely pointless, useless. I'm all about freeing animals, but I'm like, what are we doing down here? Plus, it is filled to the brim with conveniences. Like, Maz just happens to be so busy right now that she can't help, and then they get thrown in jail right before they reach the guy they need to reach, and then they trust this rando guy. They just happen to overhear the one piece of information they need to hunt down the rebellion. There are so many just MacGuffins and conveniences, red herrings, that pop up throughout the film that further our plot, and I have a big problem with that type of storytelling. Also, I hated the waste of Snoke and Phasma in this movie. It was just ridiculous. The script really is like a piecemeal mess, honestly, and I don't have a problem with a lot of the things so many others really fault the film for. My problems mainly come down to the script, and I think it could have just been constructed better. Coming in at number 5, I have Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Now, this is a one-off film that has a point to me. It felt organically weaved into the rest of the saga, and overall, I think it's beautiful. Another Star Wars film that looks absolutely stunning. All of the visuals in this movie are amazing. Plus, it gives us maybe the most badass and one of the best Darth Vader moments in the entire saga with that last bit we get with him. It is amazing. I freaked out in the movie theater. It was so good. I really enjoyed how it tied into the original Star Wars film as well, obviously leading right into that ending. And I personally really did get involved with our characters. I loved K2SO. I thought he was fantastic. I think they did a good job of building up this emotional payoff that we get at the end. My problems with Rogue One really come down to the fact that Jyn Erso as a lead character is a bit bland, and she herself was a little bit hard to emotionally invest in. But as part of a team, I was fully on board with all of them. I cared about the mission that they were on. And then everything to do with Forrest Whitaker was terrible to me, actually. It was pointless. It didn't need to be in the film. I don't know. All of that was a miss. But otherwise, I really, really like Rogue One. Coming in at number 4, I have The Revenge of the Sith. I'm just going to get it out of the way right now. There are quite a few really cheesy moments that happen throughout this film. However, they only play a minor hindrance to me. Yes, that no from Vader at the end of the film, Palpatine's no moment is also too much. And then we get that one more instance of horrific romantic dialogue between Padme and Anakin about going back to Naboo. Honestly, I can easily overlook all of those. My biggest problem is actually Padme Amidala, and where they end her story I found to be actually pretty offensive and ridiculous. Dying at childbirth for her, giving up on life when she just gave birth to 2 twins is outrageous for the character that we had been introduced to. If they had changed how Padme's story concluded, this could be in contention for number 1, honestly. It could be in the top 3 for sure, because I love it otherwise. I think it hits emotionally everywhere it needs to hit. As a singular movie, this has my favorite musical score from John Williams out of any of the Star Wars films. I love the soundtrack to Revenge of the Sith. It's amazing. General Grievous is a little underplayed, but he's a lot of fun. Ewan McGregor kills it in this movie. Natalie Portman delivers her best performance easily in the prequels. I even think Hayden Christensen does a fine job. He delivered what we needed him to deliver. The turn and the downfall of the Jedi was really emotionally resonant. The final fights between Yoda and Palpatine, as well as Obi-Wan and Anakin, both emotionally resonated with me. They were exciting. They were awesome. I love them. And, with my age, this was the end to the first ever trilogy I personally got to experience in theater, so it always holds a special place in my heart. But just as a film itself, I think it hits on all the emotional levels it aims to. It just works for me. I love it. Coming in at number 3, I have The Force Awakens. What can I say? I told y'all I love these new characters. I'm going to say something super controversial, I'm sure, but Rey, she is my favorite lead protagonist when it comes to the 3 different trilogies. I find her really relatable, I find her very interesting and easy to root for. But let's also be real, Poe Dameron was my fave right off the bat in The Force Awakens. He and BB-8 are amazing, and I loved them both instantly. Finn is at his most interesting and given by far the most to do right here in this very first kickoff, and gave us a really great new idea. The action is beautiful in this movie. The special effects are amazing. John Williams returns to deliver a fantastic score that introduces us to all of these new characters and themes. It's a heartfelt story. All of the fan service moments hit hard, and they feel organic and warranted as we get to revisit so many old friends. We get the new ships. It all just works. Everything about this movie just works. However, it doesn't break into the top 2 simply because, obviously, it lacks originality points. But wow, was this a great way to introduce us back into a new era of Star Wars. Coming in at number 2, I have Star Wars. Or, if you'd like, A New Hope. What's not to say? The film that kicked off all of this. Still one of the best sci-fi fantasy films of all time. Star Wars just delivers a fun space fantasy with high stakes, high adrenaline. The effects still look solid for being a film over 40 years old at this point, but for the time, completely revolutionary. Darth Vader is introduced as this menacing force to be reckoned with and gets an introduction to being one of the greatest, if not the greatest film villains of all time. Luke Skywalker has a nice come up, if you will, from lowly farm boy into becoming one of the greatest Jedi of all time. R2-D2 steals half of the show here with amazing sequences and tons of personality. Princess Leia and Han Solo, as well as Chewbacca, all of our characters are so lovable as well as relatable. That's what this film gets right. It honestly doesn't matter what's going on because you just love being with this cast of characters. The story of the Jedi, the mythology that's set up here are all fantastic. I think this film holds the best space battles out of any of the films. And of course, that final conclusion with the Death Star is historic. It's amazing and quintessential Star Wars. It's not quite my favorite. And you probably have guessed it because it's quite cliched. I know. Coming in at number 1 is The Empire Strikes Back. Rewatching this film, I always have that little moment of, is it really as good as I remember it being? And every time, I'm resoundingly reminded, yes. This is top tier filmmaking. This movie is pretty much pitch perfect. The special effects in this are a notch above both the film that preceded it and succeeded it. Yes, I think it has better effects than The Return of the Jedi. Plus, it's the best directed film out of that original trilogy, and maybe the best directed film of all of Star Wars. It looks absolutely stunning. The framing, the camera work is all the best. Top tier, top notch. And the storytelling here is a roadmap of how to do a heroic storytelling. Luke has such a transformation in this film as we go through learning and failing, lifting up and moving forward. His time with Yoda is amazing. The callbacks with Obi-Wan are fantastic. Yoda and his introduction in general is so good and such a powerful, wonderful message from a minor character that makes a huge impact. Plus, we're introduced to the Imperial March in this film, which, yes. Vader is even more intimidating and even more menacing than he ever was in the first film. Obviously, we get the greatest cinematic reveal in history between Vader and Luke here. Leia and her mounting storyline really get fleshed out and developed in this film as well. And we still get all the badass Leia moments we wanted, as we did in the first movie. Han and Chewbacca are wonderful, and Han gets taken down a really interesting path when we introduce him to Lando and moving forward into the final film of the trilogy. And it leaves us at a very dark place. That's what makes it such an impactful film, is we're left on this huge cliffhanger. We're left in disarray, basically. It's a really dark, complicated film. Still so intricate for being this fun space fantasy. It's deeper than you would initially anticipate. It's layered. The script is pretty much perfect. And I think, honestly, The Empire Strikes Back is pretty much perfect. So that's it. That is my personal ranking of the 12 theatrically released Star Wars films. What did you think of how I ranked these films? And more importantly, I want to see your rankings, so make sure to leave them in the comment section down below. Or, of course, you can hit me up on Twitter. If you like this video, hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on my latest videos. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!